Hello and welcome to the Global Church Project. I'm Graham Hill. Clendinning has served in a wide range of ministry roles, including the Director of Ministries for the Baptist churches in New South Wales and the Australian Capital Territory in Australia, the pastor of the Baptist churches in Broken Hill and Orange in New South Wales, serving on the faculty of Morling Theological College for 14 years, where he lectured in the areas of pastoral and practical theology. He's currently serving as an interim minister, helping churches move and become healthy and outward-looking. Aside from his pastoral studies, Ken has also got a background in education, psychology and sociology. For the past 25 years, he's been the chaplain of the Canterbury Bulldogs NRL football team. Ken Clendinning, welcome to Inside Ministry. In your role, you spend a lot of time meeting with pastors and visiting churches. What do you think are some of the greatest challenges facing churches today?
Look, I think there are a few things there, Graham. I think one of the first things is the change in context in which we operate today than maybe the church has operated in the past. Society has changed quite significantly, and particularly for churches that have been around for quite some time. One of the biggest challenges for them is to recognise that the context, the society, the community in which they are based is not the same as it was so many years ago. And the challenge for them is that they've got to rethink how they do that. It's certainly a far more missional context than it was previously, as understood to be previously. People certainly are far less biblically literate, and certainly there are lots of other pressures and so forth, secular and otherwise, in society. And so what does that mean for the church? So I think one of the challenges is that they need to have a sense of what does church look like, and how do we actually interact with society in today's context as opposed to the way we might have done it 50 years ago.
You've spent much of your career either training people for Christian ministry or supporting and equipping people for Christian ministry. What do you think are the key skills and qualities that pastors and denominational leaders need today?
I think one of the things that's always been there and continues to need to be there today is that people who are in leadership roles such as that certainly need to have a vital spirituality of their own, a vital relationship with God. And I think next, a Christian maturity, Christian character and so forth is extremely important within today's context. Then building on that, there's a whole lot of gifts and strengths that I think that they need to bring into such a role. Things such as perseverance, recognising that there are going to be some difficult seasons and that it is quite seasonal, and therefore having the ability to work through and to sustain themselves through those periods of times is extremely important. Having the support networks around them so that they don't become loners. I think people are very vulnerable if they try to do this on their own. And they also need to be, I think, strategic thinkers. They need to realise that this is a missional context in which they are giving leadership to the church, and therefore they need to be able to think about what does it mean to move forward differently, maybe having different models and different approaches of doing things. While there are probably not too many that have that as a major strength, working in a context with groups, with other pastors where they're exchanging ideas, interacting with each other, I think assists them to develop in a better way to enable to respond more appropriately in the context in which they're working, as well as having a very good theological understanding and underpinning. They need to also know how to exegete community and society.
I know you're quite committed to developing healthy and missional churches. Do you have any thoughts about how we might develop churches of that nature, multiply such healthy missional churches?
We've really, firstly into newer churches and church plants and so forth, it's really important that we sow into their DNA. that right at the beginning, it's not just about planting a church, but those churches become church planting churches. So that right at the beginning, there's a sense of their future, their understanding of what it means to be the church is to continue to grow. So they're not just to grow fruit, they're actually to grow more fruit trees. And so that there are other new churches and so forth that are planted. In regard to churches that have been established for quite some period of time, not only do we need to come alongside of them, but we need to be telling them some of the really good positive stories of what God is doing in other places. We need to identify those that are really doing this well, and link them to some of those other churches that they might become both inspirational and also models in which for them to do that. We need to be doing a bit more, I think, in terms of investing in not only the pastoral leaders, but the leaders that are emerging in those churches, identifying those leaders and making an investment in their development and sowing into that sense of both a vital spirituality, a sense of call to mission in their local areas, and a heart to invest in that as a community.
When I was at college, we had a leader come along and talk about things I wish I had have known before I went into pastoral ministry. Do you have any thoughts about things you wish you had have known about ministry or about faith, anything, if you're going into ministry again? Look,
first going to ministry, very idealistic. First 3 years sort of sorts that out a little bit. When it becomes a little bit more realistic, particularly for myself, because I went, I moved 1,300 kilometres away into an isolated community, and all the networks and so forth I had in the past disappeared, and I arrived knowing nobody, and wish I'd done anthropology when I was at college, and subsequently did so. When I look back, I think the things I wish I knew were some of those things that you got caught up with, spending a lot of your time investing in, which in the bigger picture of the kingdom of God were not all that important. And there are some things that drain a lot of energy out of you, and sometimes it was people, sometimes it was other tasks that you had to do, that took you away from the main thing and the main role, the main sense of what you're called to. And sometimes in church life, just getting caught up with things that, look, at the time seemed important for other people, and you give a lot of time to it, and you realise that that was never ever going to be an important matter in regard to the kingdom of God. So for me, if I went back and had to start again and know what I know now, my priorities would have been different from the beginning, I think.
Is there anything else you wanted to share with us today?
Maybe just this more general comment that just as it's important for us, I think, as individual Christians, not to be isolated ourselves as individuals. I think that's true for us as churches as well. That as churches, we've got a lot to learn from one another, and we've got a lot to learn from our stories, our heritages, and that from the past. Sometimes get the impression that churches think that, well, we're discovering this for the first time, and sometimes we make the same mistakes, and sometimes we need to. But there's a lot to learn from those that have gone before us, and the recognition that certainly the things that I'm able to do today is built on what those who went before me were able to do. I won't necessarily do it the same way, and I'll add to, but I wouldn't be able to do what I do if it wasn't for those that have built a foundation and a pathway, before me. And that's true when I was in pastoral ministry. It's true in the kind of roles I've had since, and I no doubt that will be true as I move to whatever God has for me in the future.
Ken, thank you for joining us at Insight Ministry.
Thanks.
The Global Church Project is located at www.theglobalchurchproject.com. On our website, you'll find a wide range of interviews and resources for colleges, universities and churches. I look forward to your company next time. From me, goodbye.